Um, I've started on a journey to interview as many people as possible that knew and understood and loved the great tenor saxophonist Stan Getz, and it's been really quite a journey. But one of the greatest things is to be able to connect with his family members. Could you talk about a memory that you have where your father showed love to you?
Sure. Let's see here. Lots of memories. There's so many. Let's see here. Dad was a very human person. He showed so much warmth. He's just a very, very kind and wonderfully warm-hearted man. He really was. I remember every time he used to come home from his long trips, he'd be gone for like 6 months or 8 months at a time, and he would come home and he'd get out of the car and he would say, "Davy." He always called me Davy. He was the only one who called me Davy. He said, "Davy, would you please get my sax out of the trunk?" And I would get his sax out of the trunk. I'd be so proud. I'd be very proud. Take his sax out of the trunk. He said, "You're the only one who is allowed to take out my sax." That was my designated job.
I would love you to talk about the humanistic side of your father, because there was I know he was a genius, but there was also times where he also could become uncontrollable, and but I really want you to focus on the loving component of your father. If you could, the memories that you have, especially of when you first started to really rehab, and how he was supportive of you, and the time that he spent with you.
Okay, well, let's see here. First of all, the accident, I don't remember the accident at all, but I was told that he was at the time he was working in Chicago, and he was called and told that there was a really bad car accident in Oklahoma, and he came, as soon as he could down to the hospital, and he was like the doctors told him, "Look, he's got a 50% chance of surviving this, and a 50% chance of being a vegetable. So when he wakes up." So, and luckily, I was okay when I got out of the coma. I was in a coma for a week, and Dad was like praying at the side of my bed for like a week. He wanted me to get out of my coma, and I did. Luckily, thanks to the grace of God. So Dad showed so much warmth. He was really, let's see here, how can I best, there were so many times, like he showed great warmth when I was growing up, just that, I remember when we were living in Denmark, we lived by this beautiful lake, and we used to go out by the lake, and Dad would like practice his horn, by the lake, and there was these two swans, like who would like swimming on the lake, and sometimes the swans would like get near, and like they would like get out of the water and start chasing us back to the house. It was funny. I think at that time I was about 8 years old.
Oh man, what is when you came out? Do you remember? Did your dad? What are your first memories when you came out of the coma that you remember?
My first memories when I came out of the coma. The first memories, believe it or not, were in Denmark, because in Denmark, I really like. It was just great living there. Just Denmark is a lovely country, and those are my first memories. Were like 7 years old. Oh, Dad's second wife, Monica, her grandfather used to have a castle near Stockholm, Sweden.
Right.
A beautiful, beautiful castle. That I remember that. I remember going up there, and I was like 8 years old, and playing and outside the castle and inside the castle. It was fantastic. Just wonderful. And in Denmark, we lived outside of Copenhagen, and then every morning we would get ready to go to school, and Steve and I would get on the local train and take the train into Copenhagen and go to school, go to elementary school. It's great. This international school. I forget the name of it. The permanent home, I guess, was in America, but we moved to Denmark, and Monica didn't have any property in Denmark. She had it in Sweden. Her grandfather owned a castle up in near Stockholm.
Right.
Yeah, but we lived outside of Copenhagen at a small town called Kongens Lyngby. It was very nice. It was lovely. It was great. Just great. Well, when Dad came home from touring, he was really like flat out tired, And usually he would go up to his room and he would just try to relax and get back his strength because he was so tired, And then when he would read a lot and watch TV and just try to relax, And then sometimes when he'd have conversations. Actually, Steve and Bev, he used to talk to them a little more, as I recall. Me, he used to he would, how should I say, my memories are, because of the accident that I had, I was not 100%, 100% okay,
Sure, no, I totally get it. I mean, you were healing,
Yeah, I was healing, and Dad would say, well, you got to go to the hospital. You have to have these tests, So I go to the hospital and have these tests, these, with a psychologist, and to see if my mind was okay and stuff like that. I was okay, but also some kind of I would have some kind of how should I say? I remember. Okay, I'll give you an example.
No, it's great. This is great. I love it. It's coming back. Don't worry about it.
It's coming back.
Yeah, it'll come back. Yeah,
it's coming back. And I remember it was it was Dad's birthday, February 2nd, and I think it was 1966 or 67 or 68, somewhere there.
Wow.
And it was early in the morning, because Monica, she liked to have the Swedish birthdays, the tradition of early in the morning, 6 o'clock, and you celebrate. And she would take a tray of hot chocolate and a birthday cake, and we would all get ready in the kitchen to bring. So Dad was waiting in the library. There was a little library downstairs. It was Dad used to listen to music down in the library, and we would get the birthday cake and the hot chocolate ready, and we'd sing happy birthday song, both in English and in Swedish, and we'd get into the library, and I'm carrying, I think it was the a big what do you call it? A big thing of hot milk or something. I can't remember.
Right. Or something. Yeah, it was it was a container of hot.
A container.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I couldn't believe it. I tripped over something and it fell on the floor. And Dad was, Dad was like, "Oh my God!" He said, "That's okay, son. That's okay." He was very understanding.
Was he very sensitive to the fact that do you believe that maybe he never shared it with you, but do you believe that he held on to some guilt about the fact that he was not there and the fact that you were. Bev and Steve were relatively unscathed. Obviously, your mom was severely injured, but do you think that your dad treated you with more care because of the accident?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Definitely, yeah. He never wanted to talk to me because, exactly as you say, he felt guilty about it, So he never talked to me about it. But later in life, when I got older,
right,
he said he felt very guilty, about it, after Big Bev had passed away, And he said that Monica told Dad that when they got married that she didn't want Dad telling me anything about Big Bev. I didn't know about this, because I would ask time after time after time, how about my mom? Where's my mom? And they would never talk to me about it. They wouldn't say anything, especially Mom, Monica. She would not say anything.
So when you kind of came to and got back in the game, so to speak, and you don't have the first memories you really have are being in that small town in Sweden, not in
Denmark,
not in the United States at all. You were there.
Now it's funny, but before the accident, I still have one memory.
Yes,
and that's when we were living in L.A. and we were living in this apartment complex. I think it was like a motel or something. And I remember I was down at the pool, and Dad was like on the second or third floor. He was just looking, make sure that we kids were okay. And suddenly some other kid pushed me into the pool, right? And I fell down I sunk like a stone to the bottom of the pool. And Dad came running down and jumped in the pool and got me out.
Yeah, he was an incredible swimmer.
He was great. He was fantastic.
How did he demonstrate that he loved life to the fullest in your mind?
Everything, every day, he would he would say, what do you want to do today? What should we do? And let's take a walk. Let's do. What do you want to do? Let's take a vacation. Let's go to let's go to the Caribbean. Let's go to the Bahamas. Let's go to Acapulco. It's great.
And did you know Monica?
Yeah.
Was it a totally brand new experience meeting Monica for the first time after the accident?
Yeah, it was a totally brand new experience. Brand new, absolutely.
And so can you talk? So you used to ask them, well, what about Mom? What about Mom? And they would. What would Stan say?
He would he wouldn't say anything. He just totally wouldn't talk about it, and I do, Dad. Later in life, Dad got into this thing. If whatever he didn't want to talk about something, he would, he was tired or something. I could understand. Because he'd been touring months and months, on the road, and he would say to me, if I'd ask a question about anything, be it Big Bev or be it whatever, he would, or if I was having some kind of a slight problem with something, he would just say, keep it light, because he just,
Dude, I love Stan Getz, man. He didn't. But keep it light. What did that?
Keep it light.
What meaning? I'm too tired. Don't be too heavy right now. Is that what he was basically saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it light. Keep it light. This is legendary. I say that to my kids too. I said, can you just make it not so heavy? So because if you started to, do you think? Is that why some of these insane moments occurred? Because people were trying to engage him at a deep level, and if he was not he did not want to go to that. He didn't have the ability to go there. You know,
Exactly. You know, he was like, you know, he just wanted to zone in on the lightness of life, you know? Keep it light.
I mean, did you ever reconnect with your mom?
I wanted to so much, but the thing is, I could never, like, get an answer from Dad or from Monica. So finally, I remember this happened in, let's see here. This was in, let me see. It must have been December of 1970 or 71. And we were down in Miami. And Dad introduced me to a friend of his. And he said that this friend was like very close to Big Bev. And then I said, okay, here's my chance. I can ask him. And I asked him about it, and she said, yes, she passed away about a year ago or something. Yeah. On December the 10th, I think it was 1970, I think, or 71.
Do you have memories of your parents? I mean, do you have any memories of Big Bev and your dad being loving? Do you have any vivid memories of that? I mean, because he basically, I mean, the story is that he divorced her when she was in a body cast.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess, I mean, again, we're talking about somebody who, you know, he didn't internalize the guilt, I don't think, very well. But
right.
Do you have memories of your parents when you were younger? If they had a loving relationship, the way the book reads, and I think the book is pretty spot on actually. But is that you guys, like you said, were running around and playing once you actually moved, I think, into Topanga Canyon, and your mom and dad were totally high on heroin all the time.
Right. I don't remember, like, Dad and Big Bev ever, you know, in my mind, you know, being, you know, in the same room. I can't remember, but I have one memory.
Yeah.
And that is, this was when Dad and Big Bev lived in Great Neck, New York, Long Island.
Sure.
And in my mind, I remember Big Bev and Monica were in the room and they were arguing very, very much. You know, like they were fighting almost, you know. And Steve had to run. Steve was like, at that time, he was like 7 years old or something, like 8 years old. He had to run to get the cops or something. Bring him home. Stop the quarreling between Monica and Big Bev. You know? Because obviously Big Bev was like, you know, heartbroken that, like, you know, this new woman was coming to, you know.
Right, and it seemed to me that was before you guys moved to Sweden.
Yeah, that was before. Yeah, that memory I do remember.
Right, so you do have that. So you lived in that was the point where it was like, I mean, this is really fast because I mean, at the end of the day, your mom wound up becoming more addicted to heroin than maybe your dad.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
that to me, it's just like I mean, we know the power of I mean, people like to get high. I mean, people like to do drugs. I wonder, you know, but going back to this thing, I mean, did you wind up feeling a close? Did you feel like Monica loved Stan?
That's a good question. I think she did. Yeah, she did love him, you know. I mean, she says she did, you know. So, And I mean, we used to have like dinners together, and like Thanksgiving, Christmases, and they seemed like they loved each other, but I didn't remember anything about Dad and Big Bev, so I had nothing to compare it to.
Right. I mean, did you guys, did you have conversations with Steve and Bev about the fact that you were confused about where your mom was?
I can't recall that Steve and Bev and I ever talked about it, or maybe we did, but I forgot. It's been so many years.
Right. Do you have can you talk about your memories of Shadowbrook?
Okay, I remember that same Christmas of 1967 or 68. Dad, the disease alcoholism was just like really getting to him, and he just like he was very aggressive. Okay, and we had to like leave the apartment. I mean, leave the house and go to like a motel because Dad was like. He was like, it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of thing, But we didn't know what mood he would be in, because of alcoholism. Alcoholism is terrible.
They went down to Costa Rica, Monica and Bev, and I mean, there were times where he was like, he would become like physical and really try to like choke Monica to death, and Bev would walk in the room, and
I can recall from. So this is about in 1965. I was, 14 at that time. I remember one night, it was like, wow, it was really like incredible. I was sleeping and all of a sudden I woke up to this screaming, like, wow, screaming. And I was like sweating, from this.
Right.
I thought I was having a nightmare or something.
I know.
And it was like, yeah, and Dad was like, he was livid. He was so angry about something, and he had drunk so much vodka that he like was like punching. Monica had locked herself into their room, and he was trying to get into the door, and he was like punching a hole in the door, like totally, and she was screaming, scared out of her wits, In that house, I was like, I was too young, I was scared too. Honestly, I was scared, because Dad would have his moments, I was scared, but my first the first thing when this would happen, this kind of a situation would happen, I would just like try to get away from it, and go into my room and lock the door, So.
You were afraid to stand up to him because you were scared of him?
Yeah, I was afraid to stand up to him. I'll admit it. I was.
No, that's fine. I mean, he was when he would become the Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, the Jekyll and Hyde. He would become almost. I mean, to the point where he was uncontrollable. You had to go to a hotel. I know that story where you guys had to go there for 5 days or something because
right.
You didn't know.
Well, I remember he would like. When I was like 14 or like 13, 14, 15, he had this beautiful silver mug that Monica had given him from her grandfather's castle in Sweden, and it was this beautiful Swedish steel mug, and he would say, fill it up with whiskey, and I would fill it up and put ice cubes in it, and I wish I was strong enough to have said, I'm not going to do it, Dad, but, and I just, I would give him his whiskey, and then, after like, an hour or so, then, he would like be livid, he would get into a very aggressive behavior, and that's what I knew, time to run to my room.
Right, right.
But that wasn't Dad. That was this disease,
Right. I also wonder, though, about not being a doctor. I mean, to me, it seemed that there was a huge amount of substance abuse issues, but, I wonder about his Steve has bipolar disorder, and I think
Right.
that in talking to Steve, sometimes later on, Stan would say to him, how's that medication doing for you, man? You getting any? He was almost mocking that condition, and I think that it's fair to say that he might have actually been bipolar himself. In
Yeah.
addition to the alcoholism, just because he wasn't sensitive to Steve's. It seemed to me he was insecure because he recognized that what his son had, he might have as well.
Right. But I never suffered from that. Luckily.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember how? Were you an appreciator of music? I know you weren't a musician, but did you appreciate music?
I love dance music, and I listen to it every day. Still, I'm in my 65th year. I listen to it every day. I love it.
I love it. What is your what are those memories? Can you talk about some more of those memories of I mean, just having going down to a lake somewhere and seeing the swans and him playing these beautiful solos. I mean, do you have memories of him just playing in an intimate setting?
Yes, I do. The lake setting. Then in home in Shadowbrook, we had this beautiful music room. Very tall. Inside the ceiling was very tall, and the acoustics were incredible. And we used to go in there and practice a lot, and it was beautiful, just beautiful. Listening to him, and then in the summertime, he used to go down to the Hudson River, and they would have a jazz festival down by the river.
Sure.
It was great. So you were from Stony Brook, is that right?
I certainly am.
Wow,
Yeah.
Another New Yorker. Great.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, born and raised. Going back with taking my kids back in a few weeks, in fact, to Stony Brook. But yeah, I mean what was the? Do you remember what it was like when your dad moved to San Francisco around 1980? I mean, did you recognize at a certain point that their marriage was broken?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Because Monica did it in a very not very truthful way. She would give him interviews and not tell him, and to do that is really not is not good at all. He could get very sick.
Well, I want to talk about that because
Yeah.
I mean, this to me is the part that's vexing. I mean, she was trying to. She knew your dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And she wasn't strong enough, and I don't know who would have been. I mean, to basically say, I can't live with you anymore, because of your drinking. So, it was in kind of a twisted way. It was like, well, if I mix the antabuse into his food, then I can make him think that he's getting alcohol poisoning. He's allergic to alcohol, and he'll stop drinking.
Right.
Even though, I mean, she was administering it, and also, I mean, were you administering antabuse too, and she was basically telling you that it was okay?
Oh, that's a very good story because I remember in the winter of 1980, Dad had a gig. Do you know Club Med?
Sure.
Club Med in Senegal, in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They wanted him to play at the Club Med. They had a jazz festival in Senegal.
Well, that's the motherland, so that's good.
That's right. And we flew to Senegal, and it was fantastic. Really nice. And I remember Mom. She wanted me to go up to his room when he was sleeping and put antabuse in his yogurt, in the refrigerator. And I said, "No way, I'm not doing that. Forget it." So I wouldn't do it.
You were how old at that time?
Oh, I was university. I was let's see here. I was I was 29. 29.
I mean, but before that, did she ask? Did you do it before? It seemed like she had everybody in on it. When they were younger.
I never did it before because I guess I was up in my university, because I began university when I was like 19 years old. But after 2 years, I took a break and I went to Sweden for a while. And then I came back after, 6 years, and I continued my education. So I graduated. Yeah.
No, this is fascinating stuff. I mean, can you talk about your memories of when your dad went from, an iconic jazz musician to a pop star?
That was like
in the mid '60s, with all,
mid-60s,
yeah, like with the Getz Gilberto album.
yeah.
I mean, do you remember? I know Steve used to say. Steve told me his dad. He said Dad never understood why those songs were so popular. He was befuddled. Yeah.
Dad never told me that, but wow, I didn't know that. He told Steve that. Wow.
Well, he was just, it was typical of a genius where it was so natural for him. I mean, the guy was not academically schooled. He was on the road in ninth grade. He was that gifted. So,
yeah.
To him, it was just another gig. It was just, and he probably was his biggest critic. So he never could understand why those songs became hits. But what was your, how did that fame, because, your dad, he went to Europe, he went to Sweden, and he lived, you guys lived there, and obviously a lot of musicians came over and jammed, and Stan was doing the Philharmonic gigs, and he was very successful, but, he came back to the States because I think it seemed like he felt like he was losing his edge up against cats like Coltrane and Miles who were doing, so he came back with sort of an edge, and he did Focus, and then he worked with Charlie Bird, and then he started to make these major pop hits. Do you have recollections from that time about how that impacted your father?
Yeah. I remember when he went down to Brazil, like in 2 or 3, and he came back, and he had the bossa nova thing, from Brazil, and that's when it took off. That girl from Ipanema and Desafinado, and he actually Aster Gilberto used to be over at our house all the time. She was in Shadowbrook, and also another Brazilian musician, Baden Powell, was great guitarist. He and his wife are always were staying at our house.
Dude, I love Baden Powell, man. That dude was
Baden Powell, yeah.
Holy. So, what did you used to hang? Gilberto was she involved with your dad?
I'm sorry, who?
Was Astrid and your dad? Did they have an affair?
I don't know about that, but I would assume, that they might have.
Yeah. No, tell me. I want to know about your dad as a ladies' man. As a son, I would have been like, this dude is out of control. Women flocked to your dad.
Yeah, they did. Like honey, bee to a honey,
Oh, man. Can you talk about just what that was? Your dad loved. So you took the horn out of. He said, "Davey, you're the only one that can touch the horn. Here's the horn, Davey." Yeah. Then, can you talk about? Did he? Can you talk about like activities? You guys play wiffle ball or shoot hoops or?
Oh, Dad loved to play ping pong. He loved ping pong.
Oh, I love ping pong. Yeah.
All the time. You like ping pong too? Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah. He loved ping pong. We played ping pong all the time when he was home, man. He loved it.
What did you bond over the most? You obviously you were high functioning. You were clearly not a vegetable at all. You went
clearly not. Yeah,
clearly not. We've been cooking here for 50 minutes already. This is just set one, and you're right. You're keeping right up. So
Right.
What were you talking about? I mean, were these games? Was it highly competitive and no talking? I mean, what did you guys bond over the most?
Dad and Mom and Monica used to like come a lot to watch me in high school. I liked to run in high school. I liked track and cross country, you know, and they would come and watch me, and that was really great. I remember that. And also when we played ping pong, Dad was very serious about ping pong. You know, he was like, you know, concentrating, like so, and he had a wicked serve too. He really did.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's my strong point is just the spin on the serve. But yeah. I mean, did you have? I mean, you said he read a lot. He was not an academic, but he was very, very well schooled. He was a very bright guy. And,
very bright.
You know, I mean, can you recall any conversations that he might have had with the family, or just things that you were like, wow, I didn't realize Dad was so locked in.
He was really, you know, the thing is, and especially he had the greatest sense of humor. I swear, we would be in the kitchen and having dinner, and Dad would like tell one joke after the other because, you know, all the years on the road, he heard so many jokes from the guys on the band on the bus, you know. So like he told all these, and most of the jokes were dirty jokes, you know. and we were like, you know, we were like junior high or high school student, you know, kids, and we were laughing our heads off.
Oh my God, that's great. Well, I mean, he was also. I mean, do you have memories, especially not so much in the '80s, but do you remember seeing your dad perform live in a club? I mean,
sure, all the time. Sure.
You talk about his entertainment style. I mean, not even his playing, but just his ability to engage and pull the audience into his music.
Oh, let's see here. I remember the Carnegie Hall concerts. Those were fantastic. Dad was like, he was ripped. You know, he really, he was great. He was really great at those concerts. And all the concerts I saw him at, he was really like, he had a great way to like, bring in the audience, you know, to zone in on the audience. He was really, he had a very good connection with the audience. You know?
Were you aware of that alpha state that he had, where that piercing stare that he would get, where he would just focus in with those blue eyes when he?
Oh, sure, I was aware of that.
Can you talk about the alpha state the best you can, and because I mean, to me, that's where the metaphysical, you know, and the human being fuse, and he had it very strong. That psychic, that meta state, that alpha state. Can you talk about what that was like?
Sure. Personally, at home, when Dad, like, you know, didn't like something, he would just like look at you in that alpha state, you know,
oh,
with
boy.
those blue eyes, you know, and then you knew you did something wrong. You know?
You're right.
And also, you know, at concerts, he was, you know, a lot. He would like have that alpha state with his, you know, beautiful blue eyes. He had those beautiful, intense blue eyes. You know.
Oh man, this is so. What was your relationship like with Nick and Pamela? I mean, the reports are that, you know, there was like, you know, the three kids from you, Bev, and Steve never really clicked with those guys. But I'm curious about how that dynamic worked out, especially at Shadowbrook.
I had a good relationship with Nick and Pam. You know, they were always. We were cool, you know, and Steve didn't have much time because he went off to college in like '66. Okay,
right. UC Boulder or something.
UC Boulder, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you live in Tucson, is that right?
That's right.
Wow, Arizona's beautiful, man.
Hey, man, honestly, I moved out here in 2003. I have seen. Well, I found my voice as a broadcaster, and then all this magical stuff and crazy stuff is happening. I mean, Tucson is my home. I have no interest in short of a syndicated radio gig. I have no interest in moving back to the urban sprawl of the Northeast or anything like that. I love the
Right.
the tempo out here is great. My wife is actually Taiwanese, so we go to Taiwan quite a bit.
Wow, that's great. Where did you meet her?
I met her at the University of Arizona here. Actually, I think your brother went here for a minute too.
Yeah, Steve went there too. Yeah, Steve went there for a while. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a whole connect. I'm telling you, man, your dad's spirit is inside of me because I like even this morning I woke up with anxiety, and then I'm like in this sort of different state. Next thing I know, Dave Getz, you're calling me on Messenger. And then I got a little angry at my younger daughter. I'm just like, Stan, I'm like, I'm having all sorts of mood swings today. And it's just like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, Dave, since this started, I've been interviewing Lalo Schifrin, Huey Lewis, doing deep interviews with like Joanne Brackeen, Billy Hart, Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, Bev Getz, Bob Duro. I mean, there are a few cats I still haven't talked to that I hope to get to. Cats like Chick and Gary Burton. But man, I mean, if you go to that website and look, I mean, I've talked to.
I did. Thank you so much for sending me your website.
Well, no, I mean your dad's movie website. I mean, this is. No. Why should this story be told, Dave?
Why should it be told? Because Dad was one of a kind, for sure.
What made, as best you can, and one thing I want you to think about as we go into set 2 tomorrow or whenever we decide to do it. I really want you to think when you start telling a story. I want you to slow down and I want you to stretch it out as much as possible. Right. I want you to go into as much detail as possible. You don't need to rush through the details. I want you to try to stretch out, go back and think about stories that have some detail to them. But when you talk about him being a one-of-a-kind person, can you talk specifically about what you mean when you say that?
Well, it's just that, as kids, we were like so affected by the way that we lived with such an incredible artist, and his persona was so intense, So how can I say it? It was, just incredible. It was like every day was like a great experience,
Well, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it was a roller coaster ride every day. You didn't know
like
what.
Peak and valley kind of thing, but it was great, because you never knew when the alcohol was going to be a part of it, So that was, but when Dad was sober, he was the nicest, kindest, most humanistic, beautiful heart person you ever knew. He was so nice.
Could you talk about some time where you saw that play out? Not necessarily with you, but I've heard him do. I heard that he would just. He'd hear about a friend of his whose kid lost his arms and legs, and
you heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, he'd do a benefit concert but I mean, give me some more of that, because that we have to create a human. We can't create this animal side of him. We need to create the humanistic side of him.
Right.
So if you have, I mean, and then. When you go off to sleep tonight and into tomorrow, I want you to be thinking about these stories. But if there's one you can share now about that sober side, because I mean, he had diseases, he had issues, but he at the core, like you said, the guy was a total spirit. And what could you just? Is there anything that stands out that shows that humanity and that heart and that love?
Okay, I remember that time with the young boy who got his arms and legs from the railroad. He tried to climb above the railroad tracks to the wire, and he got electrocuted. And besides that, let me think. I gotta think. Can you give me till tomorrow?
Yeah, this is perfect. I mean, I think we can wrap it up. We've been going for an hour here. This has been fantastic. And now we have a direct line of communication.
Thank God. Now I
Thank
can reach
God.
it.
I mean, I don't.
I'm so sorry, man.
No, I'm broke as a joke. There was no way I was going to be able to loan you $500 for. I couldn't.
Oh no, that was totally no way.
No. It just. I mean, this is important because my boss on this project was like, "Well, I'll just reach out to." I said, "Please advise," because I forwarded him your email about how much it would cost, and he's like, "I'll reach out to him." But as it turns out, we were able to do this in fine fashion, and so let's. There's a chance. Let me shoot you an email later. We can try to do tomorrow, or if you really want to just let it sink in for a minute.
Right.
You kind of know now where I'm coming from, and I want you to write down some of these stories and memories that you have, and I want you to tell them, not in a book form, but I mean as thoroughly as you can remember them.
Right.
So this was almost just sort of a rehearsal, and then we can go back and do part two. I'm waiting to hear from Herb Albert's publicist, because I'm going to do part two with Herb, and he's got all these things he's promoting, but actually I'm going to spend my time with him talking about your dad.
Great.
I hope my hope is that Herb turns into a huge resource for this film, and I think he will. But I also want to talk to him in general about because the thing about Herb is that he, and I think this is one thing we didn't get into the 80s at all, or even, but your dad, it's interesting, he became totally sober in 1985 in September.
Right.
And then after that, about a year later, he started getting tumors. But Herb knew your dad as a completely sober guy. He did not do drugs, and I'm sure he smoked some cigarettes or did but he was not abusing drugs anymore, and he wasn't drinking anymore.
Right.
So he knew that side of your dad that you would see when he was sober. And I want him to talk about that part of Stan, but I want you to be thinking about, if you want to write this down,
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, Stan, the love that he showed, and it doesn't have to be to you. It could be to other people, friends, whatever. Some stories of insanity, putting me inside that house in Shadowbrook. I mean, there was, so it's the Jekyll and Hyde, and then and then we'll go into the 80s too. I mean, the idea of when that period of time when he really was sober, and and sort of recognizing his mortality as well. And then obviously anything that might come up related to Big Bev and Stan. I mean, it's amazing to be able to talk to you. I mean, like I said, one of the most I still am confounded. I mean, it's clearly. I mean, listen, my life. I'm still learning to trust in the divine nature of things at 39 years old.
Right.
But I still am. It's hard for me to believe that you actually came away. Not just that you survived, but that you were a high functioning person. After that, it's nothing short of a miracle.
I'm so lucky. I tell you, I'm so lucky.
I'm lucky too to be able to connect with you, man. I mean, I'm. This story needs to be told. It's incredibly important story. Your dad was a Jewish gypsy genius from, Eastern Russia, and then they came and, he was supporting your grandparents, for a long time. And all that early exposure to booze and drugs took its toll. But my God, man, what an artist! I mean, a burning genius. That's what I want you to talk about. It's just the burning genius qualities of your dad, how it played out. The burning qualities. Like I love the story about when he would, say keep it light, keep it light, keep it light. You know, he didn't want to get too psychologically deep. I mean, the Hazelton story is that he went off to that, Hazelton in Minnesota. He was the only client that they that they ever took out for a drink, so they get him to shut up. You're not supposed to drink in those things, you know.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't stop talking. I mean, that's the thing, is that the other part I want you to think about is when he didn't have that stuff, how crazy it might have gotten too. I mean, I know he was in a decent state, but I mean, literally when he went to Hazelton and he was sober and clean, after a while, they couldn't get him to stop talking.
Right. Yeah. Dad knew how to talk about things in depth.
So he did. Sure. I mean, that's the point, is that he did know how to wax poetic, but then if it was something that didn't interest him, I guess he would want you to keep it light, right?
Yeah. Or he would give it the silent treatment, you know.
Right. And I think, you know what? I'll tell you something. That's why I think it's hard to color in a lot of stories for a lot of people. A lot of people have, the stories that have been told are, some of them are totally insane by the musicians. Some of them they didn't want to even talk to me about on the radio. But at the same time, I think your dad internalized a lot of stuff, so it was hard to know exactly how he really felt, because he wasn't, even though he could articulate on his horn, and when he was when he was riffing those dirty jokes and getting you guys to laugh, he must have loved that stuff, you know.
He loved it. I remember Monica; she would her jaw would drop on the floor. She was so shocked, you know.
You know, to me, it's also, I really want you to it's those kinds of things when he would, when he would open up to you guys, you know, if it was because he liked to see you guys laugh, how he showed love to you guys, how he demonstrated love to other people, how generous he was. And then on the flip side, you know, as much of the insanity as possible as well. I mean, the interventions. Do you remember those interventions? I mean, I've talked to everyone from Avram Cooperman to Coop, to his lawyer, doctors. I mean, I've talked to. I know Stan pretty well, but you knew him a lot better than I did. So, and I never, I mean, the guy is a profound dude, and he had an impact on every era of music that when he was alive, and he's kind of 100-year. He's a transcendent artistic figure. So it's a story that needs to be told, and I get the feeling that, and I love Bev and Steve, but they're a little bit guarded, and I don't think you're as guarded as they are.
I'm not as guarded, for sure. So
don't worry about opening up, because we need the humanistic side of Stan Getz. We need to be inside that house for this movie to really soar, because it's, it's part of the genius, and I definitely have it inside of me. And now that I'm working on this project, Stan's looking down on me and he's holding me accountable. And when he gets enraged, I get enraged, and I can feel it. And but after all this, you think about these 4 days of back and forth emails that we've had. It was almost mad. It was like the madness of Stan in his head, and finally there was a breakthrough. Like finally, there was this portal that opened up, and now there's relief. And I get the feeling that, because there were times where he would be strangling Monica to death, and then Bev would walk in, he would jump off the bed, and he wouldn't even be like, "Why am I doing this?" But then Monica also was very codependent and would also not condone the behavior, but excuse it too. So we got more to do, Dave Getz. It was truly an honor to talk to you, and I will. Jake,
it's a truly honor talking to you too, really.
Yeah, and so just go. If I'll email you later. We could try to do tomorrow if you want.
Anytime. I'm ready to go, man.
All right, so let me see what Herb Albert's. I'm gonna have to lock in. That might be.
Anytime's fine.
All right, so maybe we'll just shoot for. What time is it there right now?
It's 2:29 a.m.
So can
And
we?
I could do 2 more hours if you want.
All right. So let's do 3 a.m. your time tomorrow.
I'll be here.
All right. It's 11 a.m. It's 11 a.m. in Tucson. 3 a.m. Saturday morning in Korea.
Yeah, right. And also, I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
How old is Herb Albert these days? He must be getting up there.
Well, he's not. He's definitely not a spring chicken, but I can tell you that. I mean,
but he's looking good for his age.
Well, and on top of that, he has no. I mean, he is. Listen. The funniest thing. I don't think I'd have the balls to say this to Herb on the air, but I mean, the story goes that when your dad didn't have a record contract, and Herb came to him, and Herb was obsessed with the West Coast guys. You know, when your dad was out there, Chet Baker and Mulligan, those guys. And Herb never had a chance to give a proper send off to those guys. They died too early, and I know that he didn't. He wanted to make sure that he gave your dad the proper send off, and your dad came home. No, I'm sorry. He went to Stein on Vine. And was like, Maurice Stein, and was like, he's like, Herb Albert wants to sign me to a record label. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, man. He's like, his music has always want to make me puke.
Who said that?
Your dad did.
Really?
Yeah, and I know what he's talking about because Herb could never play. He's a genius. Herb is a genius, and he's a beautiful person. But he can't play burning music. He can't. The music doesn't come through him from the heavens like your father. That's why, But the point is it was one of the. I know what he's talking about. Herb veered off into the pop world, and good for him.
Yeah.
He made a ton of money. He did great. And you know what? All I'm saying is that you asked the question about age. And I don't think Herb was just down at Jazz Fest in New Orleans playing his butt off with Lanny Hall. He's got 2 CDs coming out, and he's touring the world this whole year. So as far as I'm concerned, he's still in his prime, man.
For sure.
But you're not going to. I did one interview with Herb before, and what I love the most about Herb Albert is not his musicianship. It's the fact that when he first got signed by, I think it was, I forget the label, but he was treated like crap. And he said, if I have a record label of my own, I'm going to make sure that I never treat my artists this way. And he was such a human, beautiful cat, and he is doing everything he can. He is a philanthropic wizard, and
that's for sure.
I hope that my goal at the end of the day. I'm producing this film. I'm not the executive producer, and I don't even know at the end of the day how much. I care about my content being in the film, but I sure wouldn't mind being at Herb Albert's office, pitching him on this film, and asking for some financial help at some point. And I know
beautiful.
Well, that because I want this thing to soar, man. I mean, my boss he's a good guy, and he's been pouring his heart, and there's just been a lot of this thing's slowed down to a snail's pace because of lawyers, and so now we have to it's going to take a lot of will on everybody's part and a lot of good faith to come forward so we can really get this raise enough money so that we can let this thing get to a point where it can win some awards and gain international recognition because it deserves that.
It sure does. It really does deserve that.
It does, and you're going to help, man. So we'll pick this up tomorrow.
And also, Jake, if you could, I only met Herb Albert one time when Dad was in the last week of Dad's life. But if you see him, I met him very shortly for one day. But please tell him I said hello, okay?
I absolutely will. I mean, Herb. Just to give you an example.
He was really a nice man. He really is.
Well, no, I mean, listen, Mary Clayton, who was a great soul singer, R&B singer, and was on A&M Records, and she was in his stable. And about 4 years ago, she got out of her car to help somebody who was on the side of the road, and she got hit by a car,
Oh my God.
and she lost all her limbs,
my
or at
God.
least lost her legs. And no, so she was in a coma. When she came out of the coma, the doctor said, "Well, you've lost your legs." She goes, "I don't care. I still have my voice." And she sang a song, and then she fell back asleep. The point is that I just talked to a piano player who always worked with Herb Albert on dates, and he said that Herb and Lanny Hall, his wife, bring this woman groceries every week.
That's fantastic.
Okay, so I mean, that's humanity, dude, and that's and it's the love that connects us all. So go get some rest, and we'll hit tomorrow.
I will do, Jake, and we'll talk about this tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Always, Dave. Thank you, brother.
Okay, talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye-bye now.
Cheers.
Cheers.